but they never stop to think, do I want a person in my life who's going to treat me like shit because I need support in a situation? And the answer is usually no. And so it's really just coaching them to feel confident enough to let people self-select out. If this person is not what you need,
Self-select out.
bye.
Oh my God. I really thought you meant suicide.
Oh, God, no.
Holy shit. Oh, they
I don't
self-selected.
want to be part of this friendship.
I get it. I
Bye.
get it. Holy shit. My brain instantly went to like bloop. They're just gone.
Thanos did not just snap
I was
all
like,
of the
do we have a
neurodivergents.
new term for fucking death? I've been selected. Oh my God. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm not sorry. All right. Thank you. I agree with everything that you said. That was magnificent. Thank you, y'all, too.
Yeah.
God.
All right. Third and last scene.
Let's do it.
So, um, so this is actually a part where they are in, they're in this like this floating skull, essentially, this floating like skull of a god, essentially, that they actually, I think it's called Knowhere, and they like the whole point of this plan is that they're literally taking out the resources of this planet, and there's a whole city, whole world inside of this skull. And so they were there to go to the collector and grab something from him, and on the way they're all having like their own little adventures. They're going in their own separate ways, essentially, while Peter Quill's trying to get with Gamora. um uh Rocket, Groot, and Drax are gambling and getting drunk, essentially, right?
As one
And
does.
yes, as one does. Why not? But in this, they Drax and Rocket start fighting because Drax is essentially calling Rocket like a rodent. A rodent, right? And he takes offense by even being called a raccoon, just anything in general, that he is like somehow a lesser being, right? Because at one point he was just a raccoon, and then he had all this stuff done. He has his own traumas that have happened to him, as we find out, especially in the third film. Um, and that really hits a rough spot for Rocket, and so he lashes out at Drax. They just start fighting. And what's great about just these films in general is that all of them have their own traumas that they've
Yep.
dealt with in the past, right? Peter Quill was his mom dying, and not knowing his father. With Gamora, it was literally losing her whole planet to Thanos, as we find out in Infinity War. Rocket, he literally was experimented on and then loses all of his friends by the same person. And then with Drax, his whole family's killed. So they're all really coming together through trauma. Even though they all are coming from separate backgrounds, they do have similar things that connect them, and that ultimately make them a team, even though they do still have rough spots throughout the stories, which is fair, valid, which is, and also very realistic, right?
Yes.
That's how it goes. But with Drax, he has a lot of emotional, he offers a lot of emotional depth. And really, when it comes to grief and just how it manifests differently into people. And we see that especially when he is talking about his family or anything like that, if it comes up. Um, Especially in the second film when what's her face? Mantis is able to tap in and touch him and see inside of his head and
Oh,
all of
stuff.
the sad things that have happened to him and all the dark thoughts that he's had. We really get to see that even softer side of him. Um, and so even though he has all of this great, just when it comes to just emotional side, he doesn't show it because that's just not how he operates. And so when, he calls Rocket a certain name, he's not doing it out of being angry, mean, or anything like that. He's being literal, and he's calling him essentially a rodent, and things like that. So my question is how how can we really say the intent of someone's words? And is it all about mainly getting their background and understanding them more as a person, and then being like, okay, they don't really mean that, they just don't know how to say certain things? Or is it more of, or do we have to take it as like face value when we're talking to people? Because sometimes because we also don't want to get hurt from what they're saying, and they don't know what we're going through. They don't ask us questions, so why would we ask them questions? Hurt people hurt people. So what you got for us, L2?
So I think it's there's like two sides to it, right? So first, yes, if we're dealing with somebody who's a very literal person who might not understand when something upsets someone else, um, it, there it is gracious to give them some space and to say, did you mean that to hurt my feelings? Because it did hurt my feelings. But I also think that even people who have disabilities that interfere with their ability to communicate still are responsible for their impact over their intention. And so there is some education that has to happen there, which is that just because you didn't mean it doesn't mean that that person doesn't get to be upset by it. And that I think is harder to communicate, especially if you don't know somebody very well or you're not sure what their communication style is. There is a and this is not the same, but it's similar. So my 6-year-old, we were trying to go on vacation. We decided to go to the beach, and then a hurricane hit 12 hours later, so we had to go home. That was our attempted vacation in the last year.
Okay.
But the kids were getting ready to go to bed, and I was in the bedroom part, and my 6-year-old came to the door and said, "Mom, do you mind if I close this so I don't have to hear you snore so loud?" And I went, "Ow." She goes, "Was that mean?"
Oh my God.
And I have since gotten a CPAP, thank you. But anyway,
Oh,
I was
good.
like,
Shout out to CPAP.
I was like, I know you didn't mean for it to be mean, but the way you said it, somebody could get their feelings hurt by it. I did not get my feelings hurt because I know what you meant, but somebody could get their feelings hurt. And now when she says things, if I laugh sometimes, she'll go, "Wait, was that mean?" But she also kind of has learned that sometimes she thinks things, they come out of her mouth, and the people do not receive them the way she means them. Now that is, I'm sure she's neurodivergent, but this sounds flippant. We also don't really care. Like, we're not going to change anything. She gets to be who she is. We'll figure it out.
Yep.
But it is obviously much more complex than adults. There's other things that go into it. They don't have the same relationship that I have with my child. They're grown-ups. They should not be infantilized. But it's the idea is still the same, which is that you're allowed to pause and say, okay, did you mean to hurt my feelings, or did you just not realize that that was going to hurt my feelings? And also, you're allowed to have hurt feelings. And so there's like a balance there. And I think the kind thing to do, and you don't always have to do the kind thing when somebody hurts your feelings, even if they didn't mean it. The kind thing to do is to explain and say, like, hey, in the future, if we're going to communicate, can you not do this? But that's not the way human communication works. Sometimes people say things that hurt, and you don't have the wherewithal to address it in that moment. And by the time you do have the wherewithal to address it, it's past, or it's not the right time, or there's something else going on. And so it's one of those situations where there's two rights. And I don't necessarily know that there's a wrong, because both of those people are right in the way they feel. And it can cause issues in relationships, because is it your friend's responsibility to educate you on how to communicate with them and how to not hurt their feelings? It is a friendly thing to do. It is a very kind and compassionate thing to do, but that doesn't mean that they have to risk getting their feelings hurt to be friends with you. And so there's just this balance there that is kind of hard to strike. But also nobody's wrong in that situation.
Yeah, it's contextual. It just really depends on a lot of different factors. And so a lot of times clients will come to me when they're not making friends or they've got friends and they're embarrassed, Spence. And so they're trying to retroactively go back into the mind, and we're breaking down the conversations. Like, did you say anything weird? Did you say anything inappropriate? Was that joke funny? Was that not funny? Are people taking your jokes in good faith that you don't mean harm and that you're talking about science instead of like these other things? So I've got clients that deal with it all the time. I've got it where I say stupid fucking shit. And normally I'm nuanced enough to make it land the joke or the funny or the comment. But there's been plenty of times where I've been corrected, like, that's not, no matter how you say this, this is not funny. And I remember being fucked up a couple times when I was younger. By younger, I mean like 25 instead of 33. I was like, yeah, no, this is actually not a funny joke at all. Like, I don't think I'm ever going to say this again to anyone. Okay, there you go.
But how do you learn that without learning it?
Homegirl cut right into me, and this is horrible for you to say this. So she was very fucking direct. And the reason she wasn't going to be direct, I said, hey, what's going on? You good? They said, no, I'm fine. I said, oh, everyone else is laughing at the other thing. Why didn't you laugh? Because I'm autistic, I asked. I said, why would I laugh at that fucking joke? Why would I laugh at a Bill Cosby joke? I'm like, okay, got it. Yep, I will strike that shit from the record and it'll never be said again because now I understand. And so I put myself out there to ask because I'm trying to understand humans and friends and people. And normally certain things land and with other people it didn't land. And now I know why it didn't land. So my clients will come to me with shit that they know that they said they didn't land. Or they'll come to me with weird shit that they say that they're getting in trouble for. So I got in trouble for saying this thing about homicidality. Like, yeah, bro, you can't walk around saying like you're going to kill someone. Like, that's not. But why? I would never kill them. But like, you can't say that this day and age in schools. You can't tell people you're going to kill yourself and like you got sad boy vibes, but you don't mean that you're going to kill yourself. But everyone knows you got sad boy vibes, and so they have to report it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter how nuanced you are. People are just taking your personality, student, right? Shit's happening. People are killing themselves. Certain things you can and cannot say. You can't carry this pocket knife on you being kind of an autistic, like white dude. That's kind of weird. And then you're saying you're going to kill yourself, but your fidget toy is a knife. I'm going to be real with you. If you were black and brown, you wouldn't be able to do that shit, period. So I have those real conversations all the time with clients. The intersections you have matter. And a lot of my clients were like, why? I don't fucking know why. Because of racism? Because of gender shit? Like, I don't, because dudes are wild? Like, you can't do this. So those conversations are difficult, but I love that I'm able to help people out with it. But in the moment, it's up to that friend or person. So as Spence was saying, like, how does it happen? I don't know. You got to be lucky. You got to be around good people. But sometimes you're going to be lucky like me where they're going to be mad at you for saying stupid shit. And just don't be defensive. Actually listen. So for autistic individuals, it's not always about you. And they don't hate you, but sometimes we need to refine our behaviors.
Hey, thanks for watching this video. Check out the full episode on our channel and anywhere you find podcasts. Also, remember to like and subscribe. Whoop whoop!